that the overthrow of Mussolini, Hitler and their agents and imitators will occur only under the leadership of the Fourth International. So Hitler and Mussolini will be brought down by the Fourth International? I don't think so. Trotsky was not pointing the way to socialism. He was pointing the way to confusion and disillusion. And this pamphlet here is the fountainhead of all nonsense.
Any other contributions or points of view? Amazing. A very knowledgeable audience. No, made your mind up, have you?
If I can just say something. The funny thing is, you quote what Trotsky said in 1935 about Britain. This is what he said in 1925 about Britain. The conclusion to which I am led in my study is that Britain is heading at full speed into an epoch of great revolutionary upheavals. So there's obviously a gramophone record that every time there was a strike, Britain was heading towards a period of revolutionary upheavals.
Britain at that time wasn't like Russia at the time, because in Russia, recently the peasants had actually been serfs, which is basically slaves. So Britain wasn't in the same, not in the same boat as Russia. So it's a completely different thing. You can't assume that just because in Russia there was social change on the way that instantly all the other countries were heading straight to the same place.
Any other points of view or any other questions?
Well, I think what happened in the Russian Revolution was they didn't have capitalism in Russia. They had a semi-feudal backward agrarian economy. With a small capitalist class and a small working class. The majority of the poor people were peasants. Not long before that they had been serfs. They abolished serfdom in 1860 or something like that.
Later.
So what they did do, whether it be the Bolsheviks or the Mensheviks or whatever, they built up industrialization in Russia to get away from this semi-feudal backward agrarian economy, to bring about, in a very short space of time, an industrialized capitalist economy. That's what happened to me. That's what I think happened in Russia.
Just a question to both speakers. If both of them are agreed that socialism is a system where everyone is under control by the workers and so on, what would be their advice at this moment in time to the working class then, and how to achieve it?
Well,
I think that the Soviet government,
you're not going to get a chance. Sorry, just a wee second. Does either of the speakers want to deal with that proposition, what to do now, or just want to deal with it and you're summing up? If so, I'll just take your point. I'm sorry about it.
No, it's, I was thinking, all the Soviet governments, I think their priority was industrialisation, and the peasants, were very harshly treated, of course. They were trying to bring them under state control. There was a lot of resistance which led to many of them, being killed. They found that this huge agrarian population in the Soviet Union was very difficult to manage. And their priority was, to industrialise relentlessly, ruthlessly, the great expenditure of lives. This was the foundation, of course, of modern capitalism. It was industrialisation. It wasn't agrarianism, and that's why I think that the social system which existed in Russia is so ruthless, because industrialisation was to progress at a really rampant pace, and workers, in industrial Russia were intensely exploited, and they were working in appalling living conditions. I don't know how many years I suppose some of you are familiar with, for instance, of the methods, the work practices that were used in the building of the Moscow metro. You know, Stalin wanted an underground system in Moscow, which would be in a part with that of Paris and other great cities, you know, and the expenditure of life there was really appalling. It's you know, one of the worst cases of maltreatment of workers I've ever heard about. But anyway, that's the thrust of my point, that it was capitalist industrialisation, you know, at any cost, and the cost in terms of human life was absolutely catastrophic.
Right? Any other contributions?
Well, I was going to say that you've got to remember where Russia came from in the 19th century. While Britain was building its railway network, the peasants were still using wooden planks, not metal planks. They were still using wooden planks. It was pretty much, it was very backward.
Right? You want to have a go at that?
Well, no, I was going to say.
Some of the points. I'll ask each speaker if
No, I mean,
anything
well,
that's been said, they can
it'd be
comment.
interesting to speculate what would have happened if, in the battle between Stalin and Trotsky had won. And what do you think would have happened? Trotsky would have been in charge of a country that was industrializing, and would have had to do the same sort of thing. It wouldn't have been as brutal as Stalin, it wouldn't have been the Persian and so on. It would have probably been a sort of mild version of state capitalist dictatorship, like in Cuba today. But I mean, if you read in the Revolution Betrayed, which, as you say, is a program of what the well, they called themselves Bolshevik Leninists. I think the Trotskyists would have done had they got to power. As I say, it's full of stuff like socialist accumulation, socialist industrialization. So the same process which we're talking about would have gone on, even if it wouldn't have been so brutal. But I think there would have been resistance by workers, and the government under Trotsky would have behaved in the same sort of way as the government under Castro or something like that. I mean, I think that would have been the difference. They couldn't have accelerated any revolution abroad and so on. I don't think it would have made. Well, it wouldn't have got to socialism, put it that way.
Well, I agree with the last sentence. Of course, they couldn't have got to socialism. Socialism one country is possible. There's no way that we get to socialism. Even if they had been a developed country, they couldn't have got to socialism. Socialism one country is possible. Of course, they couldn't have got to socialism. Had Trotsky been in, I've actually written on this. The question is, should Trotsky have taken power in 2020, and would there then have been a difference? He could have taken power, he was offered power, there's no question, he had a degree of popularity too, he could have taken power. He refused to take power, precisely for the kind of reason that Adams given, really. He said if he had taken power, he would have ended up like Stalin, therefore he couldn't have taken power, so therefore he wouldn't do it. That's what he actually said, which is a word in favour of Trotsky. However, logically, if you imagine he had taken power, his aim would have been to assist a revolution in the West. Everything would have been driven towards that. So the building up of Russia couldn't be socialist, it couldn't go socialist. So the most that it could have done would have been to try and build it up so that it could be reasonably stable, people could live somewhat better than